Volkswagen's Golf is the family hatchback against which all others are judged, and never more so than in this smarter, more sophisticated, improved 7th generation guise, where it's cleverer and classier than ever before. If you're shopping in this segment, you might be asking yourself why you should buy one. But perhaps the more pertinent question is whether there's really any reason why you shouldn't.
An awful lot has happened to Volkswagen since this Mark 7 Golf was first launched back in 2012. One thing hasn't changed though. It's still the brand's most important model and the one that most fundamentally defines it. Back in the 70s, the original Golf saved its brand from bankruptcy. And this revised 7th generation model doesn't face a task quite on that scale, but it does arrive at a time when Volkswagen as a manufacturer urgently needs a period of solid product continuity. Loyal buyers need to be reassured by strengthened brand values. Conquest customers need convincing that paying a premium to own a Volkswagen is still worth doing. That's quite a task. But then this is a Golf, a car now in its 5th decade of a production run that's generated over 33 million sales. When it comes to family hatchbacks, it is, we're told, the definitive article. It had better be, for we're certainly in an era when the Mark needs to step up its game. Volkswagen's in-house Skoda and Seat brands can offer Golf technology for less. The South Korean competition is improving, and more familiar mainstream family hatch rivals are adding premium quality and technology that, in the words of their marketeers, makes them more Golf-like. In response, Volkswagen launched this car at the end of 2016, still recognisably a 7th generation Golf, but perhaps not as you might know it. In the words of its maker, it simply sparkles with technical innovations, genuinely cutting-edge features that you simply wouldn't expect to see on offer in this part of the market. There's a dazzling array of optional infotainment. With top-end technology, you can even operate by gesture control. If specified correctly, your Golf will be able to drive itself in traffic jams and take over completely if you're ever incapacitated. Plus, there's also a fresh 1.5-litre TSI Evo petrol engine, a new 7-speed DSG auto gearbox, and more power for the performance models, along with subtle changes to cabin quality and exterior styling that take the look and feel of this Volkswagen even further up market. In short, it's claimed this car has been thoroughly rejuvenated. Has it been though? We're about to find out. Nothing about the driving experience has changed with this improved 7th generation Golf, but then you could argue, as Volkswagen does, that nothing really needed to. There's a polish to this car that's evident not only in the way it's built, the way it looks, and the quality of its interior fittings, but also in the way it drives. Get used to your Golf and you'll find that progress can be effortless thanks to a combination of stability, poise, and control that makes journey times shrink rapidly. Exemplary refinement helps here too, something that's always marked out this 7th generation model thanks to the inherently stiff structure that's made possible by its rigidly sophisticated MQB platform. Add in the clever engine and suspension mounts that are part of it, the painstaking attention paid to engine installation, and the benefits of a sound deadening acoustic windscreen, and you can begin to understand just why, after using this car, a drive in an ordinary rival mainstream Focus Class family hatch can seem so noisy. And that'll be evident whichever power plant you choose, and those are engines across the range that are now available with the option of a more sophisticated 7-speed DSG auto gearbox that offers quicker response and greater efficiency than the 6-speed unit it replaces. As before, the model lineup has been effectively split in half by Volkswagen's decision to adopt two quite different rear suspension systems across the range. Now, Mark 5 and Mark 6 generation Golfs were always distinguished by their sophisticated multi-link rear suspension setup that provided such an exemplary ride and handling balance. At the launch of this Mark 7 model, though, the Wolfsburg bean counters decreed that only variants with more than 120 PS could have that package. We do remain disappointed by this, but from a pragmatic perspective, it's perhaps possible to understand their point of view. After all, will the largely undemanding drivers who choose lower order Golfs really notice that their cars have to ride on unsophisticated torsion beam suspension that's cheaper for the Volkswagen factory to assemble? Well, almost certainly not. The difference between the two setups only really becomes evident when you're driving over very poor surfaces or if you're throwing the car about on country roads. Both scenarios in which the more sophisticated multi-link rear suspension setup will leave this Golf far more composed. At least when it comes to the twisty stuff, compensations provided for buyers of lower order models in the form of the standard fitment across the range of the XDS electronic differential lock that was developed for the last generation Golf GTI. Like a rival Ford Focus's torque vectoring setup, it lightly brakes the inside front wheel through tight bends, sharpening turn-in and ensuring that all the power gets to the tarmac. And it works with sharp, incisive corner turn-in and well-controlled body roll that's helped by the relatively light curb weight. These factors combine to make this Volkswagen a rapid cross-country tool, should you need it to be. Yes, even if you can only stretch to one of the lower order engines paired with that torsion beam suspension system. And we're trying one of those here today, actually. The entry-level 3-cylinder 1-litre turbo unit that's available with either 85 PS or, as here, with 110 PS. Now, it is worth stretching up to the pokier variant. This version improves the rest to 62 mph time from 11.9 to 9.9 seconds and the top speed from 112 to 122 miles an hour. The other budget engine option in the range is Volkswagen familiar 1.6-litre TDI diesel unit, which in volume 115 PS form delivers a healthy 250 newton meters of pulling power, and that's enough to see 62 mph dispatched in 10.2 seconds en route to 123 miles an hour. Even with these relatively humble engines, there's the basis here for a very enjoyable driver's car indeed, despite the fact that the electric power steering isn't quite as rich in feedback as that of a rival Focus. And you can develop things further with all manner of electronical trickery. Beyond entry-level trim, most models feature what Volkswagen calls driving mode selection. Now that's really essentially the same as Audi's Drive Select system. Here, 4 available programs, Eco, Sport, Normal and Individual, alter the throttle mapping and the engine management to suit your chosen driving style. Add in the optional DCC, Dynamic Chassis Control System, which enables you to tweak the suspension to suit the road and your mood, and there's a 5th comfort mode. In truth, you'll need one of the pokier power plants and hence the inclusive, more capable multi-link rear suspension setup that goes with them to really be able to enjoy all of this dynamic potential to the full. The majority of British buyers will gravitate towards the 150 PS 2-litre TDI diesel, which uses an elastic 320 newton meters of torque to deliver 62 miles an hour from rest in 8.6 seconds on the way to 134 miles an hour. And there's a 184 PS version of that unit in the GTD model, if that's not quick enough. And that derivative is able to improve those figures to 7.5 seconds and 144 miles an hour. Arguably a better bet, though, is a Golf variant that most customers probably won't even consider, but they surely ought to, the petrol-powered 1.5-litre TSI Evo model. The 1.5 TSI Evo engine is the one really new power plant in this revised Golf lineup, and since this unit is going to feature in a wide range of future Volkswagen models, the Volkswagen engineers have devoted a great deal of thinking time into getting it right. Now, it carries forward the active cylinder technology used in the previous 1.4-litre TSI unit, which allows the car to run on only 2 of its 4 cylinders under light throttle loads. What's different with the 1.5 TSI Evo unit is a general reduction in internal operating friction and the fact that in its 130 PS guise, the whole engine can completely shut down when you come off the throttle. Hence Volkswagen's decision to use a 1.5 TSI Evo 130 PS power for its full Blue Motion model rather than the previous 1.6-litre TDI diesel unit. If you're not quite so concerned about frugality, the 1.5-litre TSI unit also comes in 150 PS form, where it can give this Golf a very decent turn of speed actually. 62 miles an hour is achievable from rest in 8.3 seconds en route to 134 miles an hour. If it's performance you want though, it's a Golf GTR you may very well be drawn to. This time around, the 2-litre TSI engine manages 230 PS with a 15 PS upgrade if you want it, courtesy of a GTI performance model. Go for the pokier version and you'll shave a couple of tenths off the standard model's 6.4 second rest to 62 miles an hour sprint time, but both cars share the same 155 miles an hour top speed. As before, the same engine is used in the flagship four-wheel drive Golf R hot hatch variant, which also gets a 10 PS power upgrade as part of the facelift model changes to 310 PS. And here, 62 miles an hour from rest takes just 5.1 seconds. We ought to also cover off the other niche Golf derivatives before we finish. The 4-motion four-wheel drive system that distinguishes the Golf R is also used more practically paired to 2-litre TDI diesel power in the Golf All-Track Estate model that aims to provide a more sensible, lower-key alternative to a compact SUV. Now, the Golf has also taken a leading role in engine electrification in recent years, thanks to the availability of plug-in hybrid and full electric guises. The GTE plug-in hybrid pairs a 150 PS 1.4-litre TSI petrol engine to a 102 PS electric motor to offer a combined 204 PS output. That actually makes this variant quite quick when you're not watching the fuel readouts. 62 miles an hour from rest takes 7.6 seconds en route to 138 miles an hour. And the all-electric e-Golf also demonstrates a surprising turn of speed from the get-go and now has a larger 35.8 kilowatt-hour battery that develops 134 bhp, and that improves the 0 to 60 miles an hour time to 9.6 seconds. It's a Golf. You don't need us to tell you that. This is one of those cars that almost everyone recognises. What is less likely is that your friends and neighbours will pick up on the fact that you've bought into the revised version of this 7th generation model. The changes that distinguish this improved design are, after all, extremely subtle and intentionally so to preserve the residual values of the previous version. The design of this car has been painstakingly evolved over more than 40 years, and Volkswagen has no intention of dramatically changing it now. The alterations that have been made can mostly be found here at the front, where this central lower grille has been redesigned. The forward-facing camera that previously sat in the middle of that is now more neatly located behind the Volkswagen badge in the centre of the upper grille. Now, from this brand logo, as before, coloured strips flow out, designating the variant that you've chosen. They're silver on mainstream models, red on the GTI and GTD hot hatch variants, and blue on their GTE hybrid and on the e-Golf. On this revised model, these colours continue on into the headlamp lenses themselves. And if you look closely, you might spot that these feature restarred LED daytime lighting graphics. Full LED headlight beams are now standard further up the range or optional on the lesser models. And where front fog lights are fitted, you'll find that these have been restyled too. Talking of lighting changes, there's more of that at the rear, where the tail light clusters now feature full LED technology right across the range. There's also a revised bumper design that more neatly integrates the tailpipe and these slim corner reflectors. As for the profile, well, here Volkswagen has largely left well alone, although of course there's an updated selection of alloy wheels. We've got the 16 inches here. Otherwise, the confidently assertive gym-tone silhouette is just as it was, complete with this broad C-pillar design that's supposed to resemble the drawn string of a bow, and it gives the Golf a look of acceleration even when it's standing still. Of course, as usual, what's more important is the stuff that you can't see, primarily the light, stiff, sophisticated MQB platform that we first saw launched with this car back in 2012. And that's a chassis which has gone on to underpin a whole series of Volkswagen Group models. This made possible the longer wheelbase that facilitates the larger cabin that Volkswagen was determined this 7th generation Golf should have. So let's take a look inside that cabin and take a seat here at the wheel. Now, if you're familiar with the original version of this Mark 7 model, you won't find the interior to be very different, which is a very good thing indeed, because that design set fresh ergonomic standards in this segment that many rivals are still struggling to match. Now, to further underline this model's superiority in that regard, Volkswagen has added new trim panels to the centre console and the doors and smartened up the upholstery. But what you're more likely to notice is this bigger centre dash infotainment screen. Now, previously you only got an 8-inch monitor as large as this one if you pushed the boat out with one of the costly premium navigation packages. Now a display of this size is standard across the range, upgraded here to the Discover navigation system that's fitted to plusher variants and which is optional lower down the range. The touchscreen effectively deals with the usual DAB stereo, Bluetooth phone and car informational functions, and with virtually all trim levels it's embellished with Volkswagen's clever App Connect setup. Now, this is the starting point for the brand's CarNet connectivity system and the key tool for bringing the best functions of your smartphone into your car via the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and MirrorLink systems. Now, once this software is activated, you're all set to enjoy things you maybe never thought you'd be able to access on the move. For example, Apple CarPlay supports Spotify, the music streaming service, also the video calling app Skype, and Stitcher, which offers a variety of radio shows and podcasts. Android Auto works with a variety of apps too, including instant messages, WhatsApp and Kik, and Google Hangouts as well. Volkswagen also adds to these with a further range of clever apps that you're free to download. So take the Media app, which will allow rear passengers to control the in-car entertainment via their phones or tablets. Now, if you specify the upgraded Discover navigation system we were talking about earlier, and you also get a brilliantly helpful CarNet Guide and Inform setup that gives you in-car online access to a whole range of useful journeying information. Everything from traffic news, weather reports and news feeds to information on fuel and parking prices in your place of destination. You can go further too, thanks to a couple of optional extra cost technology features added into this revised Golf model. Now, the option that Volkswagen has most heavily promoted in its advertising is that for replacing this centre dash monitor with an even larger 9.2-inch Discover Navigation Pro setup. Now, this includes a 64GB hard drive, a DVD player, and most significantly, gesture control, which for the first time in this segment allows common infotainment functions to be activated with just a twirl of your finger. Now, we would think twice here though. Like other gesture control systems we've tried on luxury cars, this one is frustratingly inconsistent in its responses. Plus, the expensive Pro setup lacks the rotary dials that are fitted to the lesser infotainment packages, and it's just more awkward to use as a result. A better way of spending any spare budget, we think, is by buying into the optional Active Info display. And that's a 12.3-inch TFT screen that completely replaces the conventional instrument binnacle dials with an almost infinitely customizable layout of crystal clear virtual graphics. Now, we haven't got that here, but the beautifully recessed conventional gauges are still a pleasure to use, separated by a multifunction trip computer that, as well as driving data, can show you everything from navigational instructions to a compass and your audio settings. Otherwise, it's just a case of sitting back on the firm, relatively low-slung seat and admiring the ergonomics. Now, it isn't that it feels especially plush. In fact, one of our criticisms of this car is that you have to spend quite a lot for this cabin to feel in any way really luxurious. Having said that, though, you can't help but be impressed by the way that everything is of the right quality and it feels absolutely fit for purpose. The carpet that lines the storage boxes so your keys don't scrape around on the move. The upholstered material used for the upper section of the dashboard that's lovely to the touch. The central armrest that adjusts for 5 stages of height. The way that the gearbox lever is just the right height for your hand to sit in. And the lovely frameless rear view mirror. And the option of this 2-zone climate control system that can even adjust itself according to the direction of the sun. All of it speaks of careful, painstaking, thoughtful design. Interior storage is well provided for too. Now, your phone can be charged away from prying eyes in a lidded compartment at the base of the centre stack that also includes an aux-in point and a USB port. Installation of an electronic handbrake has freed up space for these covered twin cup holders just below the gear stick, and just to the left of them sits a coin tray. You also get large door bins able to take a 500ml bottle of water, a reasonably sized glove box, and a compartment by the driver's knee. Avoid entry-level trim, and Volkswagen will also throw in a front passenger's under-seat drawer and an overhead sunglasses compartment. So let's take a seat in the rear. Now, this is obviously much easier to do on this 5-door model than it would be with the alternative 3-door body style, and these large square rear door openings make it easy to get in and out without having to lower your head. Those of you already familiar with the Mark 7 Golf will know that this 7th generation model grew quite significantly in size over its predecessor, with benefits back here in both head and legroom. As a result, this remains one of the more spacious rear seat areas in the segment. As I said back in 2012 though, we're disappointed that the height of this centre transmission tunnel makes it so difficult for middle seat passengers to be comfortably accommodated. 2 people should be quite happy though, and providing that entry-level trim's been avoided, they will benefit from front seat back storage pockets and this fold-down centre armrest with its twin cup holders. So let's finish this segment by taking a look in the boot, the catch for which is, as usual, activated by pushing this centre tailgate badge. Your Volkswagen salesperson may well begin to reference the fact that the 380 litre capacity here is 64 litres more than you get in a rival Ford Focus. They're less likely to point out, though, that this Golf's capacity is still significantly down on what you'd find in segment rivals like Skoda's Octavia, Honda's Civic, Toyota's Auris and Peugeot's 308. Still, the room you do get is very usable thanks to this neat adjustable height boot floor that sits above the spare wheel compartment. Now, the wide hatch aperture and the low loading sill height also help if you're trying to get heavy or bulky items inside. There's a 12-volt socket and 2 bag hooks. Plus, if you've avoided entry-level trim, you get these right and left corner storage compartment areas and a ski hatch so that longer items can be poked through into the cabin. Freeing up more cargo capacity is easier to do than it would be in that rival Focus, where you've got the faff of having to pull up the rear seat cushion before you can push forward the rear seat backs. Here, you just push forward to the 60-40 split backrests and they fold almost completely flat, creating a cargo area that's 1,270 litres in size. Now, with mid-range SE trim, there's also the option of paying extra for a fold-flat front passenger seat, so you can take really long items like ladders. Now, if you do need lots of regular cargo versatility, you'll obviously be better off choosing the estate body style. Now, with that station wagon variant, the boot capacity rises to 605 litres and it's extendable to 1,620 litres if you push the rear seat backs forward. Bear in mind, if you choose the all-electric or the hybrid Golf models, boot space will be reduced. Not by too much with the e-Golf, where the figures are 341 and 1,231 litres. With the GTE plug-in hybrid, though, the capacities fall right down to 272 and 1,162 litres. Volkswagen claims to have slightly reduced the cost of this revised Mark 7 model Golf in comparison with its direct predecessor, but it is still very much priced at the premium end of the family hatchback segment. Fortunately, though, high residual values allow the Volkswagen brand to offer this car with very competitive monthly finance payments. If you are buying outright, you'll find that most mainstream models will be sold in the £18,000 to £28,000 bracket, with the diesels that 85% of UK customers want, starting from around £20,000. There's a £655 premium to go from the 3-door body style to the 5-door body shape that we have here, and that's the one that 90% of British buyers choose. From that point, there's around £1,000 more to find if you want the convenience of the estate version, and around £2,000 more needed if you want the extra space of the 5-seat Golf SV body style. But you can't have any more is the cabriolet model. Want a bit more detail? Well, we'll try and give that. The mainstream trim levels go from S to SE, or in the case of the variant we have here, SE Navigation. If you want an ordinary Golf with a sportier look, there are further GT or R-Line options. Engine-wise, the mainstream range is based primarily around 4 main units. Now, if you're looking at one of the price-leading variants, you'll probably be choosing between a 3-cylinder, 1-litre TSI petrol power plant offered with 85, or as here, 110 PS, or Volkswagen's familiar 1.6-litre TDI diesel, which these days puts out 115 PS. If you want a punchier option, your choice will be between the brand's latest 1.5-litre TSI Evo petrol unit, that's offered with 130 or 150 PS, or Volkswagen familiar 2-litre TDI 150 PS diesel. To get the improved 7-speed DSG auto gearbox fitted to one of the units we just mentioned, there's a £1,415 premium to pay. So much for the mainstream Golf variants, but what if you want something, well, a little more sophisticated than that? Well, assuming your budget can stretch into the £28,000 to £30,000 bracket, your dealer will be able to oblige by offering an intriguing choice of 4 very different upmarket Golf models. Conventional high performance can be provided by the GTI petrol model, or alternatively, you can mix that with a little more frugality if you go for the GTD diesel derivative. Performance with cutting-edge eco-motoring technology is also available for this kind of money. That's once you take into account government grants. There's the intriguing GTE petrol-electric plug-in hybrid model, or the full electric e-Golf. Now, if you can stretch beyond the £28,000 to £30,000 bracket and you want an even higher level of performance, then the flagship variant remains the 4-wheel drive Golf R, although you will need a budget of around £33,000 for that. In short, you certainly can't complain about a lack of choice. On to the value proposition. Now, when you're making price comparisons against rivals, bear in mind that the Golf is one of the only cars in this segment that can be ordered in 3-door form. Virtually all comparable rivals only come with 5 doors. So do make sure you're comparing like with like and adding on the 5-door price premium to the cheapest figure Volkswagen quotes with each engine. That's assuming this body style is the one you want. Do that and it'll underline the point we made right at the beginning of this section, namely that this car is, well, something of a premium priced option in the volume part of the family hatchback segment. In fact, of all the equivalent rivals we looked at in researching this film, in real terms, only a Mini Clubman costs more. It is also true, though, that no other rival in the volume part of the segment does as well when it comes to retained residual values. So you pay a bit more up front, but at the end of your ownership period, you'll also get a bit more back too, while enjoying, well, a much nicer car in the interim period. And that is an argument that Volkswagen dealers have been effectively using for years. We can see the logic in that, but we also have to brief you on the segment alternatives too. So let's do that. Now we'll start with volume rivals like Ford's Focus, Honda Civic and Toyota's Auris, all of which pitch up with list pricing that's actually very Golf comparable. But the reality is that in all those cases, dealers often discount the advertised figures far more heavily than a Volkswagen franchise would. Another car prone to dealer discounting is Vauxhall's Astra, but the difference in this case is that with the Vauxhall, list pricing undercuts an equivalent Golf by an average of around £2,000 before you start haggling. Now that is reflective of the fact that the Astra doesn't quite have the quality and the cachet that's on offer here. As for other class rivals, well, we think you have to consider the 2 models that share virtually all of this Golf's basic engineering, the Seat Leon and the Skoda Octavia, both cars that were substantially updated at around about the same time that we first saw this rejuvenated 7th generation Golf. Most variants of the Leon look actually quite comparably priced against this Volkswagen, with the exception of the base 1.6-litre TDI diesel version, which will save you around £2,000 over its Golf equivalent. It is worth pointing out, though, that in model-for-model comparisons, we've found the Seat spec to be significantly higher. If price is a bigger factor for you, then you'll be more drawn towards the Skoda Octavia, which offers a model-for-model saving of about £1,500 over equivalent Golf derivatives and which has a much bigger boot. Are those kinds of incentives enough, though, to encourage loyal Volkswagen buyers to switch brands? Well, the sales figures would suggest not. Turning to other competitors, you could certainly save a little by choosing very credible segment contenders like Peugeot's 308, Hyundai's i30, Renault's Megane or the Mazda 3, and potentially save yourself even more, as much as £3,000 or so, by going for models in the sector that are aimed at budget buyers, so contenders like Kia's Ceed, Citroen's C4, Nissan's Pulsar or Fiat's Tipo. Ultimately though, as ever, you get what you don't pay for, so make very sure you can live with that before pocketing the saving and settling for a lesser car than this one. Another well-rehearsed Volkswagen dealership sales pitch is that with a Golf you're paying volume brand money, but you're getting premium brand quality. Or to put it another way, a Golf costs around £2,000 to £2,500 less than an Audi A3 that's almost exactly the same underneath. Now there's a similar price gap between this car and something like a BMW 1 Series, a Volvo V40 or a Mercedes A-Class. Again, showroom evidence would suggest that potential Golf customers find that argument compelling. But let's assume you're convinced by all of that and you've decided it is a Golf that you really want. And if so, you're going to need to know just how generous Volkswagen has been with the standard spec. So let's take a look at that now. Now, we were a little surprised to find it necessary to pay extra for carpet mats and an alarm on entry-level derivatives, but otherwise all models are very well provided for. Even entry-level S-Trim gets you a composition media infotainment system with an 8-inch touchscreen, Bluetooth and an 8-speaker DAB audio system, plus USB, SD card and aux-in connection points. There's also air conditioning that also calls a glove box, a multifunction trip computer and a variable height boot floor. Most buyers, though, are going to want to try and stretch to one of the SE variants, if only to get a wider choice of engines and extra cost options, plus a cutting-edge standard of electronic safety provision, and that's something we'll cover off in a minute. Now, you have to stretch to this level in the range to get as standard at least some elements of the advanced degree of media connectivity that Volkswagen is making so much of with this revised Golf model. SE spec customers get the CarNet App Connect system that allows use of the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto MirrorLink systems that enable you to mirror the display of your smartphone onto the center dash screen. And if you stretch to an SE navigation model like this one that we're trying here, this setup is also upgraded to Discover navigation status, and that includes a 3-year subscription to the useful CarNet Guide and Inform package. Now with this, you get constantly updated journeying information on things like traffic flow, fuel prices, weather forecasts and news reports. All SE models get 16-inch alloy wheels, auto headlamps and wipers, adaptive cruise control, power folding mirrors, front and rear parking sensors, front comfort seats with height and lumbar adjustment, an alarm, an auto-dimming rear view mirror, a rear seat ski hatch and extra areas of interior storage. Plus there's the driving mode selection system that lets you tweak the steering, the throttle and on a DSG Auto model, the gear change timings to suit the way that you want to drive. If you want your mainstream Golf to have a sportier look, the GT spec includes larger 17-inch wheels, lowered sports suspension, sports seats and rear privacy glass, along with the full Discover navigation system. And you can go a step further by opting for an R-Line model with more aggressively styled 17-inch alloy wheels, bespoke interior trim and a full body kit. As for the other premium standalone models further up the range, well, the GTI, GTD and Golf R hot hatch models all have a specification that's based on GT trim, but with a whole series of appropriately bespoke additions. And the same is true of the intentionally sporty-looking GTE plug-in hybrid. The all-electric e-Golf, though, emphasises a more sober-suited approach, and it shares much of its specification with the SE navigation trim level that we're trying here. Onto options. Now, if you've opted for base S trim, you'll find that quite a few of the features included at SE level can be ordered individually as options, including the Discover navigation system we've been trying here, which can be ordered with or without voice activation. And once you have some sort of navigation setup fitted to your Golf, you'll have the chance to use Volkswagen's freely downloadable media control app that will allow passengers to control the media system using their smartphones or tablets. So kids in the back, for example, can find their favourite radio station and then they can respond to bellowed adult commands to turn it down. If you've the funds to go further with infotainment in your Golf, then the optional features that the salesperson will probably be most eager to talk about is Volkswagen's flagship Discover Navigation Pro media setup with its larger 9.2-inch colour touchscreen. Now this introduces gesture control to this segment for the first time and allows common functions to be activated with just a twirl of your finger. Plus the package also includes voice activation, a 64GB hard drive, 3D mapping, DVD player, and of course the full suite of CarNet Guide and Inform functions that we mentioned earlier. Now the other piece of fresh optional technology introduced with this revised Mark 7 model Golf is Volkswagen's Active Info display. Now this is a 12.3-inch TFT colour display that completely replaces the instrument vehicle's conventional dials. Totally configurable, very futuristic, and another of this model's biggest showroom talking points. If you can't stretch to that, the ordinary instrument dial layout can be improved with an extra cost centre colour display. A further area of new optional cleverness with this car lies in what you can do with the headlamps. If you're looking at a mainstream model, then there's a chance to add in a high beam assist system, which will auto dip the beam at night, or upgrade to full LED headlamps, and that's a setup that on request can also include dynamic curve lighting that turns with the bends, or dynamic light assist that automatically adapts the beam to suit the conditions and the needs of other road users. And other options, well, let's start with the driving stuff. DCC, dynamic chassis control, allows you to tweak the suspension to suit the way you want to drive. Also worth considering is the park assist feature that can work either with or without an optional rear view camera, and either way it can automatically steer you into the tightest spaces, whether they're parallel or perpendicular to the carriageway. Now, if you've specified the optional swivelling tow bar, then you'll want this setup to come complete with Volkswagen's brilliant trailer assist feature, via which you can maneuver your Golf using the mirror adjustment switch as it steers itself to park whatever you're towing. And if we were regular towers, that feature alone might well sell us this car. Other optional niceties include keyless entry, a wireless smartphone charger, climate control, a heated windscreen, a panoramic glass roof, front fog lamps, LED rear light clusters, rear privacy glass, a heated steering wheel, and a winter pack that gives you headlight washers that can warm the windscreen washer jet so they'll work first time on frosty mornings. If you really want to spoil yourself, you might want to tick the box for full Vienna leather trim, or perhaps the one for the Dyn Audio Excite sound pack that gives you a thumping 400-watt 8-speaker sound system. Aesthetic touches include a range of alloy wheels with rims 15, 17, 18 or 19 inches in size. Plus, as usual, there's the option of various metallic or pearl effect paint shades, as well as 2 more exclusive signature colours. As for practicalities, well, we'd want to look at the usual mud flaps and carpet mats and the range of roof racks and carriers for things like bicycles, skis and snowboards. On SE models, there's the option to specify a fold flat front passenger seat so your Golf can accommodate really long items like surfboards. For the boot, you can get a useful luggage compartment tray or a luggage restraint net. On to safety, and that's an area where Volkswagen now claims class leadership with this model. All models get predictive pedestrian protection that specifically searches for pedestrians who might be about to step out in front of you, and if necessary can initiate braking to avoid them. There's also a clever automatic post-collision braking system that automatically brakes the car down to 6 miles an hour after a collision. So if, say, someone hits you and understandably you go to pieces, the car will automatically sort itself out. And across the range, Golf buyers can expect to find a driver alert system, and that will monitor driving reactions for drowsiness and prompt you to stop for restorative coffee if it detects lethargy. If you want more, then from the SE trim level upwards, an ACC, Adaptive Cruise Control System, comes as standard. And that's one of those that will automatically keep you a safe distance behind the vehicle in front on the highway. Now, the forward-facing camera used to provide that setup additionally delivers a front assist system that at speed scans the road ahead as you drive for potential accident hazards and warns you if one's detected and will automatically brake if necessary. They get that same kind of functionality for slower urban motoring too, as part of a city emergency braking setup that's included as part of the front assist package. From the SE level upwards, you also get a pre-crash preventative occupant protection system that senses when an impact's imminent and then braces the car to better withstand it by instantly closing the windows. Plus, it is also worth mentioning that all Golfs fitted with navigation get traffic sign recognition, which will picture speed signs as you pass them and then display them on the centre dash screen. As for safety features fitted to all versions of this Volkswagen, well, you can tick off the usual twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus a driver's knee bag. Rear side bags are optional. Also included across the range are features like ISOFIX child seat fastenings, a tyre pressure loss indicator, anti-whiplash head restraints at the front, and if you're towing, a trailer stabilisation function to prevent dangerous trailer sway. On top of this, there are the usual electronic systems to try and ensure that these features are never needed, and that means ESC stability control, and ASR traction control system, and an XDS electronic differential lock for improved traction and handling. There's ABS braking, of course, a hill hold assist feature which will stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and panic stops will be advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning lights. If you want to go further with electronic safety provision, we'd suggest you look at the possibility of paying extra for one of the optional lane assist packages your dealer will be able to offer you. Lane assist is there to automatically steer you back into lane if you drift out of it. And this not only helps with long highway trips, but also minimises the risks posed by dangerous oncoming traffic on country roads. And just how many lives could have been saved by such a system if it had been more widely available before now? The two standard lane assist packs see all this technology paired up with either high beam assist or dynamic light assist. These are the two headlamp technology options that we previously suggested you might want to consider. In either case, you'll be given the further opportunity to upgrade to a more advanced lane assist plus pack, and this will give you 3 additional features: emergency assist, rear traffic alert, and traffic jam assist. So let's finish by explaining those. Now, emergency assist works with the adaptive cruise control system we mentioned earlier, and on the move, it senses if the driver has stopped operating the controls. So perhaps he or she's been taken ill, for example. Now, if that's the case, after a series of warnings, the electronics will bring the Golf to a safe, controlled stop with a slight steering swerve and flashing hazard warning lights to alert following motorists. Rear traffic alert will warn you of oncoming traffic when you're reversing out of a space, and traffic jam assist, meanwhile, allows this Volkswagen to drive itself in low-speed traffic queues at up to 37 miles an hour, using the lane assist technology to keep the car in lane. It sounds futuristic, but if you have to regularly commute in stop-and-go traffic, it's a feature you'll really come to depend on. Engine technology changes a great deal over the lifespan of a volume family model. Take the petrol units in this Golf. Back in 2012, this 7th generation model, which originally launched with 1.2 and 1.4 litre TSI variants on offer. Now the petrol range is primarily built around the downsized 1 litre 3-cylinder power plant that we're trying here, and an all-new 1.5 litre TSI Evo engine that's also being made available in supremely frugal Blue Motion guise. For ultimate frugality, of course, diesel power still rules, and here the options are rather more familiar, with the usual 1.6 and 2 litre TDI choices carried over from before. All of these engines are helped in their fuel and CO2 emissions by the relatively light weight that's been made possible by this car's MQB platform. In rough terms, this enables the Golf to weigh in at around 60 kilos less than, say, a comparable Ford Focus. Plus, there are the usual eco-minded features you'd expect to see on a car of this kind. Regenerative battery charging to reclaim energy that would otherwise be lost under braking, the sleek aerodynamics, and a start-stop system to cut the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. If you got an automatic, then you'll also get the benefits of Volkswagen's freshly developed DSG transmission too. The new 7-speed unit is cleaner and more frugal than its 6-speed predecessor, thanks to the larger spread of individual gears. In this, the DSG system is also aided by a coasting function that at cruising speeds will disconnect the gearbox, leaving the engine to idle until you next need it. Across the Golf range, the need to upgrade what lies beneath the bonnet into Euro 6 emission status has obviously also helped in the quest for greater efficiency. The TDI power plants that many customers will choose are like most modern diesels. They get a selective catalytic reduction filter to cut down on nitrous oxide, and the TDI system is these days built around the injection of a urea-based solution called AdBlue into the exhaust gas stream to help clean up the emissions. The liquid used is stored in a 12-litre tank, and that's mounted at the rear beneath the boot, and that'll need topping up as part of regular servicing. On to the figures. Now we'll quote for the 5-door body style, since that's what most customers will be looking at. There is a fractional saving to be had if you go for the slightly lighter 3-door body shape. In all cases, they will harm the quoted readings only marginally if you choose the optional DSG Auto gearbox, but as usual, you could harm them more significantly by opting for larger wheel rim sizes. Now, we were just talking TDI, so let's start there. The base 115 PS 1.6 litre TDI diesel variant manages 68.9 mpg on the combined cycle and 106 grams per kilometre of CO2. Other segment rivals can do significantly better, but we suspect that most likely Golf buyers will probably be quite satisfied with those readings. Despite its extra power, the Pokia 150 PS 2-litre TDI version of this Volkswagen doesn't do too much worse, returning 65.7 mpg and 109 grams per kilometre. The more potent 184 PS version of that 2-litre TDI engine is only available in the GTD hot hatch, and if you go for the blue line version of that car, that trim name designates the fitment of smaller 17-inch wheels, then the figures are 64.2 mpg and 116 grams per kilometre. Ought you to consider petrol power? Well, if your annual mileage is low, you certainly should seriously consider it. After all, the 1-litre 3-cylinder turbo TSI engine is capable of 58.9 mpg on the combined cycle and around 109 grams per kilometre of CO2, whether you choose it in 85 PS form or the 110 PS guise that we're trying here. If you need the extra power of the newly developed 1.5 litre TSI Evo unit, you'll get this without much of an efficiency downside, thanks to that unit's use of Volkswagen's ACT or active cylinder technology. This essentially means that this car will run on only 2 of its 4 cylinders under light throttle loads, which will mean that most of the time buyers of the 1.5 litre TSI variant will effectively be driving a 2-cylinder Golf on their morning commute. 2 1.5 litre TSI Evo variants are available, 150 PS version capable of 55.4 mpg on the combined cycle and 116 grams per kilometre of CO2. And there's a 130 PS Blue Motion model, which can return up to 61.4 mpg on the combined cycle and as much as 104 grams per kilometre of CO2, thanks to an extended coasting function that completely shuts down the TSI engine when you take your foot off the throttle. This 1.5 litre TSI Evo engine effectively replaces the previous 1.4 litre TSI unit in the Golf range, although in one remaining derivative, the older engine does live on, ironically in what is arguably the most sophisticated variant, the GTE plug-in hybrid. As before, this petrol-electric model pairs a 150 PS 1.4 litre TSI power plant to a 102 PS electric motor. That motor runs from an 8.7 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery that can be charged in 3 3/4 hours from a domestic socket or 2 1/4 hours from a fast-charging wall box that you can buy through your dealer and get fitted to your garage. Now, providing the charge is topped up, as much as 31 miles of all-electric progress is available, and that's easily enough for most people's daily commute. That's provided you run the car in its most frugal E-mode. That's one of 4 operating settings provided by this variant. Others include a clever hybrid hold mode that'll conserve the car's electric charge until you activate it at journey's end, and a hybrid charge option that can use the petrol engine to proactively recharge the hybrid system's electrical elements as you drive. although the extra fuel you tend to use doing this tends to cancel out the battery benefits. Now, the quoted NEDC figures for this plug-in variant in its standard form are 38 grams per kilometre of CO2 and 166 mpg on the combined cycle. A plusher advanced trim version with bigger wheels does slightly worse, but it includes a standard navigation system that aims to claim back that deficit by using GPS data to optimally control the way the powertrain works. If you need more electric range than the GTE variant can deliver, you'll need the lineup's Eco Champion, the e-Golf model. Now, quite a lot of work has been done on this full electric variant, primarily in the fitment of a bigger capacity battery, the charge limit of which has risen from 24.2 kilowatt hours to 35.8 kilowatt hours. And that's enabled the total NEDC rated driving range to rise from 118 to 186 miles. Although, as Volkswagen admits, a more realistic real-world figure is more likely to be closer to 125 miles. Still, think in terms of this improved e-Golf being able to take you around 40 miles further on a single charge than it could before, which for many could make ownership of this variant a much more credible proposition. Charging times are rated at just under 6 hours if you've got access to a wall box. If you're limited to a domestic wall socket though, it'll take over 13 hours to return 80% of charge capacity. We'll finish our power plant perusal with a very different unit, the 2-litre TSI engine used in the potent hot hatch Golf models. Volkswagen are keen to point out that this unit develops more power in this revised Golf, but it's not quite as frugal as a result. In 230 PS form, as fitted to a Golf GTI, it manages 44.1 mpg on the combined cycle and 148 grams per kilometre of CO2, though you can slightly improve on those figures by opting for a DSG Auto gearbox. Go for that 2-litre engine in its ultimate 310 PS state of tune in the flagship 4-wheel drive Golf R model, and the figures are 37.7 mpg and 180 grams per kilometre. And that's with manual transmission. Choose the 7-speed DSG Auto in a Golf R and you'll find that self-shifting transmission makes a big difference to the figures. The combined fuel consumption improves to 40.9 mpg and the CO2 reading improves to 160 grams per kilometre. But we should turn our attention back to the mainstream derivatives. Now, with all the controversy in recent times over Volkswagen's quoted fuel figures, are the stated stats really achievable in day-to-day ownership? Well, we think a careful owner might be able to get close to them, but only if he or she were to fully use all the efficiency tools this car makes available, and there are plenty. Now, as you'd expect, there's a gear change recommendation feature in the instrument binnacle's central display screen, and if you have a variant fitted with Volkswagen's driving mode selection system, there's a selectable eco setting that focuses all of the car systems on ultimate frugality. That is just the start though. Across the range, the centre dash infotainment screen includes a Think Blue trainer in its car section. Now, that's a display that gives you 3 circular dials that help with different areas of driving efficiency. The centre one has 2 blue arcs in its outer ring, and you've got to stay within these by braking and accelerating carefully. If you do, you'll achieve a higher so-called blue driving score, rated on a scale of 0 to 100 and shown in the left-hand circle, or graphically via a separately selectable blue score overview. Do well here and the average fuel consumption figure shown on the right-hand circle will of course rise, and a touch of this round graphic will take you to a graph that shows your average fuel consumption over the last 30 minutes. There's also the option of accessing a series of Think Blue fuel-saving tips, although to be frank, some of these are, well, rather blindingly obvious. Things like think ahead while driving and drive in the highest possible gear. Opt for the extra cost Active Info Dash Display TFT instrument binnacle screen, and you can also select an efficiency branded set of virtual gauges which duplicate the centre and right hand dials of the Think Blue trainer screen and bring these right into your line of sight as you drive. Can you be bothered with all this? Well, if you can't, it's no good complaining about the quoted running cost figures not matching those you actually achieve. Now, the other cost-related facts surrounding this Volkswagen, though, are rather more straightforward. Now, for a start, you can expect some of the highest residuals available in the class. To be specific, if you choose a mainstream Golf model and you don't go too mad with the extras, experts predict that after 3 years and 36,000 miles, you should be able to get around 48% of your original purchase price back. Now, that is an impressive return on your investment for a volume branded car in this class. We should give you a feel for the potential insurance costings too. The base 1 litre TSI petrol model is rated at Group 11 in 85 PS form or Group 12 in the 110 PS guise we're trying here. For 115 PS 1 litre TDI diesel, you're looking at Group 13 or 15, depending on the trim level you select. The 2 litre TDI diesel is popular. In 115 PS form, you're looking at groupings between 18 and 20. Choose that unit in its 184 PS state of tune, and it's a Group 27, that's in the GTD hot hatch. Go for the 2 litre TDI engine in the all-track four-wheel drive estate model, and the insurance industry will be kinder to you, quoting at Group 17 for the 150 PS model and Group 22 for the 184 PS unit. The GTE plug-in hybrid is rated at either Group 25 or 26, while the all-electric e-Golf comes in at Group 26. Finally, you'd expect the two top petrol hot hatch models to be expensive to insure, and they are. The GTI hot hatch is rated at Group 32, and the top Golf R is rated at Group 39. As for servicing, well, as usual with Volkswagen models, there's a choice of either fixed or flexible maintenance packages. Now, you'll choose the fixed approach if you cover less than 10,000 miles a year, and with this, a car will typically be looked at every 12 months. Now, if your daily commute is more than 25 miles and your Golf will regularly be driven on longer distance journeys, then you'll be able to work with a flexible regime that can see you travelling up to 18,000 miles between garage visits or every 2 years, whichever is sooner. And warranties, well, the standard package is 3 years and 60,000 miles, and we can't really see why Volkswagen couldn't extend that mileage limit to 100,000 miles, because that's what's on offer with its mechanically very similar Caddy model. Doing that, though, wouldn't give Volkswagen dealers so much of an opportunity to sell extended warranty packages. Now, there's one for 4 years and 75,000 miles, or if you plan to see a bit more of the world in your Golf, there's a 5-year and 90,000 mile package. Whatever your decision, your car will come with 3 years of pan-European roadside assistance, and that has no mileage restriction. The paintwork warranty lasts for 3 years, and as you expect, this model is protected by a 12-year anti-corrosion guarantee. In the words of a previous Volkswagen Group chairman, the only mistake a Golf can really make is to stop being a Golf, a failing you can never level at this improved 7th generation model. All the reasons you might want to buy one are satisfied here. So there are classy looks, a meticulously crafted cabin, and all the quality you'd expect from the Western Hemisphere's most recognised and most desirable family hatch. This is what happens when all the resources of Europe's leading automaker are focused on creating the definitive expression of conventional family motoring. True, it could be more exciting in its more affordable forms, and you certainly wouldn't call it inexpensive in comparison with mainstream models in the segment. Volkswagen's argument in response is that this car is now as good in every meaningful respect as pricier premium compact hatch models from prestige brands. And there's some truth in that. Certainly when it comes to media connectivity and electronic safety provision, this improved Golf has a premium feel, setting a standard that all lesser contenders in the sector must now aspire to. As before though, most of the really clever features are optional, and you've got to progress quite a long way up the range before this car begins to feel really luxurious. If that doesn't bother you, then with this Volkswagen, you'll be getting a family hatch with quality that runs deep. For nearly half a century, this car has been a benchmark in the segment it originally helped to create. Nothing's changed in that regard, and it probably never will.